Alright everybody, welcome back into Cherry Picking. Today's video, must add. We're getting close here to the fantasy hockey playoffs. Probably 2 weeks for some of you guys coming up here. So there's definitely a couple guys to add for that playoff run. If you're close to getting into the playoffs as well, these players would definitely help. There's two guys I have on my watch list on one team that I think will provide a lot of value that a lot of people are sleeping on this week. So let's get right into it. All right, so the first guy we're going to be looking at a little bit more on the public side. If you are not in those 8 to 12 man leagues, this guy will probably be available as a streamer option. Someone to pick up, pretty great for the fantasy hockey playoffs as well. So that's Seth Jarvis. Surprisingly enough, he's only 32% rostered in Yahoo leagues right now. He has that left wing and right wing duality, which is great as well. Looking at his last 10 games played, he has 6 goals over that span, leads the team, and he also leads the team in shots on goal over that span as well. Over the last month or so, he's 8th in the NHL in high danger chances for with 26. Playing on that first line with Svechnikov and Sebastian Aho really has helped Seth Jarvis's value at this point too. It's great that he's creating so much offense on his own, along with playing with these really high-skilled players at the same time. And as a group, too, this line creates a ton of rebound chances. Amongst the three of them, over the last 10 games, they've created 15-plus rebound chances. So other than them just scoring on their own, you know, they're finding different ways to create offense, which is great. Seth Jarvis being a huge beneficiary of that as well. He's also on the second power play, but when you're on the Carolina Hurricanes' second power play, it's not really a second power play, I would say. You have Marty Necas and Brent Burns on that. We're two really high-skilled players, along with some other guys as well. So that will probably almost act as a first power play line for some of these teams in the NHL. He only plays 3 games this week, but I still think that he'd be a very valuable add at this point. If you're not in too deep of a league, this guy would certainly be an extra boost for your playoff run or to get you into the playoffs right now. All right, so another guy we're going to be picking up this week, the must-add for defenseman, and that's Mikey Matheson on the Montreal Canadiens. 21% rostered. He's only played 25 games this year. He has 4 goals, 12 assists, 5 power play points. As I mentioned, must-add of the week. Since this guy's been fully healthy, he's been an absolute stud for the Canadiens. For one, he plays almost 24 minutes a game over his 25 games played so far this season, which is crazy for a guy who's still on the waiver wire in a lot of leagues at this point. He's on the first power play as well. Commands a solid amount of offense on that power play, quarterbacking it alongside Mike Hoffman on the point. He's been shooting a ton recently as well. He has 5 points in his last 4 games, including 2 goals as well. 12 shots on net for Mikey Matheson too. We haven't really seen this type of volume, but I think he's almost forced to, considering all the injuries on this team at this point. He's tied for the league lead too over his last 10, or team lead, sorry, over the last 10 games with 9 points. So this guy is really a do-it-all defenseman at this point for the Canadiens. The one great thing about the Canadiens this week, if you're looking to pick up guys, they play 4 games, which is obviously there's only a couple teams that play 4 games this week. Most teams will just be playing 3, and there are definitely some plus matchups, especially for defensemen. You get the Sharks, the Kings, the Ducks will be a great one for Mikey Matheson if you're looking for a streamer, especially even DFS lineups. He'd be really cheap. And then the Golden Knights. So as I mentioned, this team's just absolutely littered with injuries right now. There's really only a number of guys you can trust on this team in terms of fantasy value. That being said, there is one more player on the Habs that I am telling you guys to pick up this week. But Mikey Matheson, if you're in need of a defenseman, is definitely should be on top of your priority list. All right, so now we get into the guys who are less than 10% rostered right now. The first guy being Thomas Novak on the Nashville Predators. This is probably one of my favorite ads of the week, especially amongst the forwards that I've been talking about. I think this kid's really going to start get going here. Now you see the Predators are clear sellers at the deadline. You know, they moved, Niederreiter. They also moved Tanner Jeannot to Tampa Bay Lightning. So just more opportunity for this Novak kid to really get going on this team. This is pretty much really only his second season in the NHL, if you want to even call it that. Last year he played on this Nashville team, played like 26 games. But now he has 26 games under his belt this season, 9 goals and 13 assists. So close to a point per game right now. And on a Nashville team that, to be honest, doesn't threaten offensively too much at the moment. 7 points his last 10 games, averaging 15 minutes price time in February compared to 12 minutes throughout the rest of the months we've seen. And even as we get further into February, he's playing even more, which is great to see. He plays on the first power play as well. At 7%, it's nuts to see this guy playing in so many different situations and still so lowly rostered, playing on that first line. Just on 5-and-5 hockey as well. Could definitely be a huge part of a fantasy hockey championship run, I think, if he doesn't get moved at this point. Nashville did say the only real 3 people they're definitely not trading, obviously, you could guess, are Saros, Yossi, and then Philip Forsberg. Novak, I think he's starting to become a little bit more part of this offense as well, so maybe they won't be trading him away. He's still pretty young too at 25 years old, but at 7% rostered, I think he could really help a lot of those deeper leagues that you're in terms of fantasy hockey value, especially when the playoffs come around. All right, so the last guy we're going to be adding, I talked about the fact that we're looking at 2 or 3 guys on the Montreal Canadiens that offer fantasy value. This is the other one. It's Josh Anderson right now. He's been playing great. I mentioned when I talked about Mikey Matheson, this team littered with injuries, especially on the offensive end right now. It just so happens that Josh Anderson has been that guy for this team alongside Mike Hoffman when you're looking at forwards. Suzuki as well, but he's a little bit more inconsistent than I would say Josh Anderson is at this point. Over the last 10 games, Anderson leads the team in shots on goal and Corsi for. So that just leads me to believe that he really just dictates a lot of the pace for this offense. He's a hell of a shot. He can rip it down the wing. He's very physical too, which is great for bangers leagues. You know, he hits a decent amount of people and blocks shots. Plays in all scenarios for this team right now as one of the more veteran guys on the team. He's created 25 high danger chances over his last 10 games too. So on a Montreal team that already doesn't create a lot of offense, he's just been the front runner for it. He also has an expected goals mark of 5 over his last 10 games, which is top 15 in the NHL over that span. So he's been very solid for this Montreal Canadiens team. As I mentioned, they have 4 games next week or this week. One of them against the Ducks, one of them against the Sharks. So there's definitely some games here where Josh Anderson will be a huge value add for your team at 8% roster to help you get in the playoffs. You might as well start streaming these guys this week. I think it'd be a very smart play. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know what you thought of the players to add this week. If there are any other guys you're looking to add to help you get into your fantasy hockey playoffs, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.